Hello, truth seekers all over the world. This is Matthew from Back to the Covenant. Hope you're having an amazing day wherever you're at, and wherever you may be watching this in the world, wherever you're at. So it's been a while. So this is going to be episode number, I don't have enough fingers, number 13 of the Journey to the Truth series. And I'm blessed to be joined by Morgan from Wildly Unpopular. How's it going, sister?
Going well. How's it going with you?
Excellent, excellent. So, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you some questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So let's start it out with a bang. So if you want to take a few minutes, share a brief description from your own words, your personal journey to the truth, some of your testimony.
Okay. Well, I grew up Southern Baptist in the Bible Belt, and I hated church growing up, but my grandma put those little frilly dresses on me and the little black snappy buckle shoes with the little frilly socks. And we went to church. And then when I was a teenager, a very young teenager, I did enjoy youth group. I went to church camp. I was all up in all of that all the time. And then around 16, I was just kind of over it. Was just kind of wanting something new. Really found myself in that like punk rock kind of borderline scene kid kind of place. And so I was listening to that hardcore grungy screamo and wearing black and gray and, you know, all that. And then I had some like background stuff kind of going on my whole life that no one really knew about, because I was able to see spirits. Wasn't really sure what they were, wasn't really sure what to call them, but that definitely influenced me sort of going in a darker sort of direction as I got a little bit older. And then around 18, I started really searching out, you know, what are these things that I can see? I feel really at home in this darkness. It feels very familiar to me. This is where I feel comfortable. And so I just really went with that. And then my friends, I ended up being best friends with a Satanist, which was the worst thing that could have happened to me at the time.
In high school?
But, so I had just gotten out of high school because I was 18. So we'll call him Jay. So Jay and I were very, very close. And he was kind of jealous that I could see spirits. He would do spells and, you know, cast the little circles and summon things, and he never would see anything. So he wanted to be able to do that. So he enjoyed being friends with me because I was able to tell him if the stuff he was doing was working. And I just always had a limit, though. There's always a limit for me personally. I could just never go as far as he could. It felt like there was a boundary, like a moral thing for me. He was into really, really dark stuff, and I was into light work, as I called it at the time, because I thought that that was not evil or wicked, but it still kind of resonated with.
Well, they call that white magic instead of black magic.
They have light work, they have gray, and then they have black magic. Okay. So usually if you see magic spelled with a K at the end, it's usually in reference to darker magic.
That makes sense.
It really is actually just traditionally the European, I think, spelling of magic. How they just used to spell it. But along the way, this guy, Aleister Crowley, he sort of normalized it for black magic to be spelled with a K.
That makes sense.
So let's see. How do I it's such a deep story. How do I just segue? Gosh, well, I kind of started just questioning the world. Really, we were stoners. We were doing the typical stoner, the government kind of stuff.
I was that teenager.
I did start learning some things about the government, and I did just sort of develop a little bit of a distrust for a lot of authority in general. So that was really the gateway, I think, to me coming out of the occult was I started just to find legitimate truth, even if it wasn't the source of conspiracy theories. So then I think what really picked up was I had my son. So through the pregnancy with him, I was still using tarot cards. I was still very much so into astrology. I was still seeing spirits, and still hadn't really decided what I thought they were yet, though. And then fast forward a little bit. When he's born, I did not realize I had signed the consent forms for him to get the things, So
I think you call them the jabby jabs.
Jabby jabs, pokey pokes, whatever.
Yeah, everybody knows what you're talking about.
Right. So I had planned on not getting those. Honestly, at that point, it was only because of like the heavy metal thing. I had not really researched it, but my gut was just like, let's just not. So it was a very traumatic delivery. It was life-threatening for the both of us. By the
Wow.
time they brought those papers to me, I probably legally wasn't even of a sound mind to be signing things like that.
Huh.
But basically, I had to because they had to do so many things to get him out. They needed me to sign the papers saying that I wouldn't sue them if something was wrong with him, basically. So in the middle of the stack of papers, they slipped the consent form for the things.
Oh no.
So I signed it, having no idea that I had signed it. So he had a reaction. I had to, do the math because I didn't realize he got them until I left the hospital. So when I sat down and did the math later, I realized that what happened was the second day he was born, they took him in the morning, gave them to him so they could circumcise him later that day because they won't do that unless you get vitamin K. So, and it was a couple of hours after the circumcision, I started to notice that he wouldn't eat. He fell into this really eerie, deep sleep. I couldn't really get him out of it. He wasn't alerting me that he was hungry ever. I was having to make him eat, and then he would throw all of it back up. He broke out in eczema all over his body, literally all over his body. And his body temperature started to drop. So they put him on like this heat lamp thing, like he was a chicken. And it wasn't working. And I said, well, let me do skin to skin with him. And they refused. No, you can't do skin to skin. He has to be on this heat lamp. So I had to wait till the nurses were gone, get him, put him in the bed with me. We did skin to skin, and go figure, his body temperature went back up to where it was.
No way.
Yes. So I started really researching those things that he got hardcore after that because I had firsthand experience now that they were bad. So that really just plunged me into so much. Just studying that alone, because everything is interwoven together. So I started learning about trafficking victims, what the powers that be do in the dark, the Illuminati kind of stuff, selling your soul kind of stuff, the stuff that people laugh at and think is ridiculous. I've never thought that was ridiculous. I've always been like, yeah, that's because of what I come from. It wasn't weird to me to think that people are doing rituals or sacrifices. I was just like, yeah, okay. Because I knew that people still do that because I watched my friends do weird stuff with altars and, so I knew it was real. I just didn't realize that the government was doing it. So that led me to The Shape of the Earth. And then that led me to just the Bible in general. And then the Bible in general led me to Torah specifically. And now here I am.
Nice. Okay, so I have a question that I didn't plan on asking, but I think I should. So since Abba brought you out of the occult and New Age, what do you say to a believer that says that Satan and demons aren't real, since you had a lot of experience with that exact same thing?
It's hard to engage that conversation because I knew someone who was sort of that way. They were completely incapable of seeing the spiritual. And I've come to realize there's nothing that I can do to prove to them or show them. I remember one time, there was someone I was kind of very briefly dating. We were at their apartment and I was still involved with the tarot cards. So I had done a tarot reading over at the apartment and I was talking about the spirits that I saw. I was very open and honest with him about all of that. And so he challenged them. And I told him to stop. I was like, you have no idea what you're doing right now. You need to stop talking. And he's like, yeah, if you spirits are here, show yourselves. And I kid you not, the power went out.
What?
The power went out.
Wow.
And he was shaking in his boots like a little baby. I was like, I tried to tell you, but it didn't change anything for him. He was like, oh, it's a coincidence. He's a coincidence theorist. Yeah.
Yeah, I have never seen. So my dad said he's seen a demon like in our childhood house. I've never seen that kind of stuff, but I know they're real. Like, I used to work at a mental hospital, and I could see them in people's eyes. Like,
yeah,
I could see them in their spirit. So So back to Torah. How did you get into Torah?
So when I was studying the childhood pokes, I I inevitably came across a sect of women who were very against circumcision. And that was where I learned how the vitamin K relates to circumcision.
Yep.
So a woman was sharing on there, and now keep in mind at that point, I think I was looking at that about a year after my son was born. So
okay.
I was 21, 22. I didn't come to Torah till I was about 25.
Okay.
So when I was 21 or 22, this woman had shared that if you just wait 8 days, you don't need the vitamin K, that the body has the ability to perfectly coagulate and not bleed out. So I was looking for flat earth verses in the Bible, and I came across some things related to health, and like cleanliness, and like literal, like hygiene, cleanliness.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to see what the Bible had to say about health in general. So I actually read where it says circumcise on the 8th day. And like my whole life flipped upside down. I was like, how could they have known that long ago? Like, this has to be divine information from a divine creator. It has to be. How would they even know that all the way back then? So that started me kind of being like, well, the Old Testament does have something to offer. And there is stuff in it that's current. It's relevant to us right now. So then it started with pork. I started studying pork, started studying shrimp. And I was like, okay, so I started following the food laws. And I kind of thought that was the extent of it, like the 10 Commandments, the food laws. I didn't realize there was like an entire standard of conduct. I mean, I did, but I didn't at the same time. So it was when I met Wes that he sort of plunged me all the way into the rest of it. And then also through Sean's channel, Kingdom and Context.
Yeah, I've got a lot of value from both of them too, especially Sean. So, keeping on the Torah topic, how have you benefited spiritually from keeping Torah? Has it increased your faith?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I see such a difference in the attitude of people who follow, versus the people who don't follow. And now that's not like 100% all the time. Obviously, there's bad apples on every side. But there just seems to be this level of understanding that comes from the people who do observe versus the people who do not. And there also seems to be like people more readily see spiritual warfare when they're following Torah, I've noticed. And their discernment's a lot stronger. Like, you're not going to find somebody observing Torah and doing Halloween, but churches do Halloween. So I'm just like, there's a clear difference for sure.
Yeah, when you come to Torah, you take this verses more serious about not being like the world and walking in his ways. And so what ways has your life improved since the Most High has opened your eyes to the truth of his scriptures?
How has it improved? I am at peace much more so than I was before. I don't worry quite as much. I have moments of worry, but I'm not in a constant state of worry like I was before. I used to have panic attacks several times a day, like a literal insane person. Like, I would curl up in a ball. I'm not joking at all. I would curl up in a ball, rock back and forth, and like repeat things. Like, I would get a phrase and I would just like repeat the phrase. Usually it was either I don't want to. I don't always know what I don't want to was in reference to. I don't know if it was just I don't want to plunge into this panic attack, or I don't want to die. I don't really 100% know, but I would just say like, I don't want to over and over, or just whatever it was that triggered it. I would like repeat it over and over. And I haven't done that at all. I've had minor panic attacks, but I've never, like, since coming to the full truth, had a panic attack like that ever again.
How long did you have them? Just curious.
Couple of years.
Okay.
It started, I had having ones that were that bad. I think it started when I was 19, and then it got really bad after I had my son, because I was in an abusive relationship and my child had pokey damage. So he never slept. It was a nightmare. His health was a nightmare. So I was sleep deprived, doing everything by myself, and in an abusive relationship. So I was a nutcase.
That's a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
So now you have more peace. That's awesome. What challenges have you faced since you started keeping Torah on the other spectrum?
People, other people and their opinions.
Yep, that's the simplest way to put it. All right, so here's a question. I never know what kind of answer I'm going to get, so just a fun question. From your perspective, what role does Torah have in your salvation or your path to salvation?
Well, it is the standard by which you will be judged. So I feel like it should be taken pretty seriously. And do I feel like that's the only thing that's taken into account for your salvation? No. But it does matter. And when you know better, you do better.
When you know better, you do better. I can put that on a shirt. So share a cool story that's happened to you since you started keeping Torah, maybe a memorable feast moment or memory.
Oh, well, my first Passover was really cool. I made unleavened bread at home, and it was basically just tortillas. And my family came over. My family doesn't really like observe that stuff, but my grandma came over. My dad had a really hard time. So when we were living together, he had a very hard time accepting the Torah journey, and he still does have a hard time with it, but he was willing to participate in Passover, which was really cool. That's cool. My son was able to see all of us do that together, and I was able to explain to him what it meant and what it stood for. And I messed up several things. I didn't get it exactly right, but it was fun. I really enjoyed. I think Passover is probably my favorite feast.
I would say that's my second favorite next to the Feast of Tabernacles. I love that one. Going in Abba's creation for 8 days, nothing like it. I don't know how that law.
I think the Feast of Tabernacles is harder for women.
Well, if everybody,
I can't take a legitimate shower for 8 days.
Well, there's that. You can jump in the lake or the creek if you're next to one.
You could. I enjoy it. I really like what it means and what it stands for, but it is hard for me to actually act that one out for sure. I try.
The place we went to a couple of years ago, they had a what do you call it? Place where you have showers at a camping site, but they didn't have hot water, so thankfully it wasn't that cold. But woo, boy, I mean, you didn't need no coffee that morning if you took a shower.
Yeah.
Now this is my favorite question to ask. Have you ever personally experienced or witnessed a miracle?
Yes. I feel like I've experienced many small miracles because small things can still be miraculous. But what's jumping out at me right now is, since I already talked about the birth of my son and touched on the fact that it went downhill, before I conceived, I was a stoner. I mean, I smoked all the time, every morning, every night, throughout the day. So I would do this meditation, and I do not recommend it. I'm not saying anyone else should be doing this. I was doing a wrong thing, but I feel like God reached me through the wrong thing that I was doing.
Yep.
So I would go on these things, I would call them trips, and they would basically be sort of like visions. And I would see whatever I would see, and then I would feel myself like get shoved out. And once I'm shoved out, it's over. I can't enter again, like at all that night. I can't enter that place ever again. So I was doing that, and I was having a vision, and I was not pregnant yet at all. This was about a month before I was pregnant. I had a vision that one, was pregnant, 2, that it was a boy, 3, that I ended up in C-section and I died in C-section. So fast forward, I end up pregnant. It's a boy, and the birth is going downhill. It was 12 and a half hours, and he didn't move at all.
Wow.
So I had an episiotomy. The ladies out there know what that is. And he still was not coming out. So they rolled me around all these different ways, and it wasn't happening. He wasn't going to come out. So my doctor knew about I told her it was a dream, because people act weird about, visions. So I told her I had a dream that I was going to die in childbirth. And she blew it off. My mom blew it off. My son's dad blew it off. Nobody took me seriously. I kept telling them, like, I know in my heart I'm going to die when I have him. So I remember having moments while delivering. I went to this place. It was, I'm not quick to say it was like Sheol necessarily, but I mean, it's a little reminiscent of it. It was black, the blackest black I'd ever seen in my life. it was peaceful though. And that's my thing. I feel like if I was really there, I would not have been on the peaceful side. I mean, I was still a practicing witch. I had been shown the right way and I didn't choose the right way. So it's hard for me to believe that I would have been on the righteous side of Sheol.
Yeah.
So, but there was this peace, and I heard a voice in my ear say to me that I could stay in that peace forever. All I had to do was just let go. And I did. I let go. But instead of dying, I like jolted back into my body and just like started pushing. And but even then it just wasn't enough. And they were like, we're gonna have to take you to emergency C-section. And I looked at my doctor dead in her eyeballs and I was like, I'm going to die. Do not take me to C-section. And she was scared. Like, I think she finally was taking me seriously. And she said he had been in the birth canal for too long, that basically we're at like a this is life threatening no matter what we do situation. So she said, since it's dangerous either way, I'm going to give you 3 more pushes. If he doesn't come out, I legally am required to take you to C-section.
Wow.
I said, okay. He came out on the very last push and we were both alive.
What? Hallelujah. Wow.
Yep.
Hallelujah.
I'm sweaty reliving the thing.
You got my blood pressure up a little bit. So you're a miracle mom and he's a miracle baby after that story. So that's a 2-for-1 special story.
They've been trying to take the both of us out, but they've been trying much harder to take my son out. I'm very curious what his purpose is, because he's been under attack since before he was even born.
Yep. Need to figure out his mission. I think you figured some of yours out with what you're doing online. Speaking of that, how long have you been studying scriptural cosmology? Since you put really cool videos out.
Let's see. The timeline's a little iffy. I looked into it a little bit, thought it was ridiculous, dropped it, walked away from it. It was not until this one night in particular, I was studying vaccines, and I really made the connection between vaccines and witchcraft, potions, basically, and the word pharmakia. I tied all that together in one night. And I don't know, it's like this light bulb came on inside of my whole body. Like I felt the light from this light bulb radiate through my whole entire being. And flat earth was the first thing that came to my mind after that, because I think it was the only thing that had been sent my way by him that I had sort of rejected. So how old was I? 23, 24? So I studied it for 8 months before I was willing to admit that I believed it. Because it's nerve-wracking when the whole world is against you on something to say, yes, I believe this and I stand firm in this. And I didn't have the confidence, especially I was in a long-term relationship with someone who's very globe model, evolution, Darwinism, Big Bang, we're here by coincidence and nothing really matters kind of person.
Yep.
So imagine talking to him about that. And it was hard and we fought all the time. But honestly, us fighting all the time made me realize how much I did believe it and that I was willing to fight for that belief system and fight to prove that it's true. So we split ways, obviously. And I really moved forward in it. And I think I kind of found my voice in it a little bit. So we'll say I was 24. I'm 28 now.
So 4 years.
Yeah.
She's like all women.
Longer. Let's say 23. I feel like it's been longer than 4 years.
You don't look 28. Get out of here. Let me see your license.
I don't want to be 28.
So there is a lesson in what you're saying, because the other day, I'll share a quick story real quick before I ask the next question, because this is my jam too, just like you and Wes and Sean. So you have to know your stuff if you're going to talk to people and if you're going to rip shirts out in public. Me and my wife took my mom out for lunch the other day, and if you're going to talk to people about the shape of the earth, scriptural cosmology, you better know your stuff. Because I was wearing my The World is a Movable shirt, and my wife was wearing the shirt from Feast Tabernacles last year. It has a dome and then some mountain. It says Shalom from under the dome. So this pastor, as we're walking out, he says, "So what's up with your shirt?" And I thought he was talking to me because I'm always wearing shirts like that. He said, "Shalom from under the dome. What is up with that? What does that mean?" And we had an interesting conversation with him. He was open, but That's just a lesson that you need to know your stuff if you're going to talk to people or wear shirts. So, anyways.
So I will wear flat earth shirts to the Bible study I go to on Wednesdays, which is at a just regular church. It's the same church I used to attend before the Torah thing. I don't go as often now because it's just hard to listen to a message, like all the time that you don't agree with the full message. Yep. But I love the people. So I still go sometimes on Wednesdays because it's a little more of an open discussion rather than just hearing a sermon. So I wear my flat earth shirts and like nobody says anything. They know though, like they all know that I'm a flat earther. They all know about the Torah stuff. And I feel like they purposely ignore it because they're just tired of listening to me. Like, don't get her started talking about the earth.
So on a different topic, what's your favorite topic specifically in scripture? If it's not scripture cosmology.
Well, it used to be flat earth, but I feel like I've matured much more than that. So, I really like the millennial reign.
Nice.
I think about it often. I think about how many Christians don't know about it often. And I think that's sad because it's a really big part of the promise. Like I know the promise is eternal, but the millennial reign, I feel like is the easiest to connect to because you still have the mortals outside the kingdom. It's the immediate thing that happens, after what some people would call the rapture, but after the second coming. So it's like you're immediately transitioning into that, and it does last 1,000 years. So you would think more Christians would know about it. And I feel like if they did, they'd be much more excited about his return.
What would you say is your favorite verse in all of Scripture? That one's hard to pick, but I have mine. Mine's Proverbs 3:5. That one's easy for me.
I can't pick just one.
That's what most people do. That's so hard.
I do really like where he says, I put before you today life and death, choose life. I do like that. I don't know that I could say it's my favorite. There's so many good ones. If I really like Psalm 119 just as a whole.
Oh yeah.
The whole chapter. So I'll just say the whole chapter of Psalm 119 is pretty good.
Okay. What do you like to do on Sabbath every week?
Well, I like to have a lamb if I can.
Oh, my wife loves lamb.
Makes me feel very connected to the Yeshua culture. I don't know. It makes me feel Jesus-y. I don't know. And I just like to relax. I like to, I make sure I do it properly. I try to avoid causing people to work or money transactions. So that's the first thing. I try to make sure that I have some sort of Bible study that day. I really like to watch Sean if Sean's on, if I can catch him whenever he's on that day. But mainly just trying to chill, trying to relax.
It's a day of rest, so there is that. Yeah. So the name of your ministry / YouTube channel is Wildly Unpopular. So what motivated you to choose that name?
I was watching Kingdom in Context, actually. So, okay.
Really?
Let's rewind.
Huh. Cool story. Let's hear
it. People started asking me, not are you going to start a YouTube channel, but when are you going to start a YouTube channel? I was like,
oh my goodness.
Like I've never even mentioned starting a channel. I would never want to have a channel. I don't want to be on camera. I don't like looking at myself. I don't like hearing my own voice. And when you edit something, you have to listen to it over and over and over. I was like, I can't do it. There's no way. And my knowledge is compared to other people. So, and of course, I'm watching people like Sean and like Wes, and they're all super amazing. And I'm like, I'm all the way down here, and they're all the way up there. But I responded to one person, and here's where I messed up. I said, if God wants me to start a channel, he will provide everything that I need. A microphone, editing software, all the tools that I need, a webcam. So I think it was within a week, I had a microphone, editing software, and a webcam.
Wow. Boom shakalaka.
Okay. So I was like, I just don't have a name. What's the name? So I was watching Kingdom in Context one day. I was, cleaning, sweeping the floor, doing whatever. And I heard Sean, what word did he say? Was it unpopular? I think it was unpopular. He used the word unpopular in a sentence. And then like a brick through my skull, the words wildly unpopular came through. And I immediately knew what it was. I immediately knew that it was the name of the channel. Like there was no, God, what are you talking about? I was like, there it is. That's the name.
Well, I don't have a cool story where I came up with mine like that. That's a cool story. So you got me on that one. Do you have any current projects you're working on to help build y'all's kingdom?
Yes. So I really, really, really have always wanted to do a documentary, and I really want to incorporate Amish people and the Amish lifestyle and their frame of mind somehow into it. I haven't decided on the topic yet. I don't know if they put up with me long enough to do like a docu-series because that'd be super awesome.
Yeah, that'd be
But
cool.
they don't really like cameras or technology, so I don't know. I'd have to see if I could find some really cooperative Amish. But there is also a Mennonite community maybe 45 minutes away from me. So I could just go the Mennonite route.
Nice.
But yeah, I definitely want to talk to them about their just perspective on a lot of things. And I want to have a lot of different points of view. And I don't want to channel the documentary into like this super biased opinion. Like I'm trying to drive people to a certain thought process. I don't want it to be like that. I'm not trying to brainwash people. I just want to present something. Does that make sense?
Yep, sure does.
So I want to leave it a little open-ended. Like, here's what these people say. Here's what these people say. I know what I like the best, but what do you like the best? Kind of thing.
Let the audience choose. That makes sense. Just present the information unbiasedly. We don't get a lot of that nowadays.
Like that. What is a woman?
What?
That What is a Woman documentary. I felt like that was a very unbiased documentary. He went around and he just asked questions, and the people's attitudes said more than anything that they said with their words.
Yeah, that was an amazing documentary, and there's a lot of people that can't answer a simple question on it, which is wild.
And a lot of people would say that it's biased. They try to say that he was framing his questions a certain way to get a certain sort of answer. He was just asking questions. These are just basic questions, and they were unable to answer. And I didn't think it was biased at all. He gave them an opportunity to present whatever they wanted to present. He wasn't trying to funnel it in any direction. They funneled it in the direction themselves.
Yeah,
so I want to do something kind of like that.
He just asked the question past the mic. So do you have any last words of wisdom you want to share with everyone?
Oh, darn. Keep it flat.
Oh my gosh. No, she didn't. Oh, that's funny.
Read your Bibles.
There you go. Awesome. So what's the best place people can find you? I guess YouTube.
My YouTube channel, Wildly Unpopular. It's one word, not two. I also have a TikTok, actually. So people are super against that. Whatever, I have one. And it's also Wildly Unpopular. And I have a Facebook group called Torah Testimony. So if they add themselves there, they will very quickly find me.
So her YouTube channel will be linked in the description of the YouTube video or in the description of the podcast if you listen to the podcast. So thank you, sister, for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Shalom.
Shalom.